Hello, Sueanne. What are we going to
Hi.
talk about today?
Well, we are talking about Jordan B. Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life.
And is there something in particular that has triggered or has allowed you to go, I'd like to discuss this a little deeper?
Sure. Page 98 of chapter 4 or rule 4, it stopped me. And I thought this would be a great line or quote for us to discuss. So I'm just going to read it. It's not going to be the full sentence, but just the part that really stopped me when I was reading. It says, you must choose what to see and let the rest go. So this is part of a quote from a Vedic Indian culture reference that he made in the book. So it's about illusion. What are your feelings about that?
Would you like to read it one more time just so that
Sure.
I didn't fully embrace it?
You must choose what to see and let the rest go.
All right. Well, the Vedas is an incredible, wise source of story and information and lore. And so I've used the teachings from the Vedas along with the Tao, along with a certain type of spirituality. When you study spirituality, when I study spirituality, the root is the breath, esprit, the Latin of breath. And so this quote is something that I absolutely believe in. And I've twisted it slightly to you are the center of your universe. So whatever you read, whatever you smell, whatever you see, whatever you experience, it's yours. And while I can be a intuitive healer, an empath, a psychic, a clairvoyant, clairsentient, really experiencing what you experience is quite often overrated. Your ability to articulate what you're experiencing might be quite challenging if you haven't dug deeply into it. And that's what I would say that this quote is about. That's why sometimes when I ask a question, I want you to tell me your first, your second, your third interpretation, because sometimes the first interpretation has strictly been what's been taught. It's not truly what you believe is your truth. That's what my interpretation of that quote is. Back to you. What I've just said, is there any alignment, or did I answer your question, or do you have a follow-up question?
There's some alignment. I'm just curious as to, do you feel he's referring to the illusions that we have?
Actually, I believe that quote specifically is talking about Arjuna. And Arjuna has to go through some incredibly soul-searching decisions. And that's one of the things, yes, illusion is the word Maya. And we are living in illusion. What you are seeing, what you are hallucinating right now is your illusion. Any of our listeners right now, they might be seeing a person with this shirt and not like me or the shirt, or they might be seeing you with the curly hair and they're getting a response to your words, an illusion. And so many of the scriptures in Arjuna's journey in the Vedas that are covered are often, what is the illusion that you're seeing? With the information you have, what's your illusion? You think about any times in your life when you had anger or jealousy or fear, what was the focus of your illusion? Because if you flipped it on its head and looked at 180 degrees, it would be a totally different story. It's like looking at a story that you decide to put scary music in, dun, 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 or energetic music in from Jaws, dun, 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 or the different types of songs or music or actions or fear of the future or regret of the past. And that creates our illusion.
I just feel though, with everything that is happening, illusion sometimes eases a lot of the stresses that we see. And also, it maybe blocks a lot of the things that we're not ready to deal with yet. So, for somebody who is not really spiritually focused and just sees things as is, if you were to tell this individual, well, it's just an illusion, he or she may say, no, it's not. It is what it is. So, in what ways do you not convince or not influence, but get them to maybe think about another perspective?
Well, that is the beauty of the illusion, is that when one is trapped in a story, and that's what night terrors are. Night terrors, there's a story, and it's often a reoccurring story, and people are stuck in that story until they can, often by choice, to shift the channel. And for some people, it's as simple as turning the dial. I'm no longer going to watch horror FM. I'm going to start listening to Happiness 101. And so shifting the dial on your radio or shifting the dial on your TV, and someone who's adamant, no, no, you don't understand. Okay, well, guess what? I have some understanding, yet because you've got such an energetic charge around that illusion, that is going to be your choice. And that's what a lot of spirituality is about. It's not so much religious dogma as opposed to you actually have the choice to change the channel. Someone who doesn't believe in the afterlife, and then someone passes over or dies, and they say, I'll never see that person again. Well, that's a very different story than perhaps some of our native cultures that say, no, that person's energy transforms into perhaps one of your guides. And so the fear or the upset of somebody passing over is very different in some cultures for some people than the finite, that once this body's gone, it's totally gone. And so the illusion is the story we tell. His story is often written by the winner of wars. Her story is now becoming told more vibrantly. We're looking forward to share more of her story, because her story is often about Mother Earth, about the cycles of the moon, about the spirit of humanity going beyond what the illusion of lack is.
However, there are individuals who are going to hear this and not believe what is being shared today. So, for that individual, where do you feel they need to begin? If they're not ready to go down that path, and if they've said, you know what, this is my life and this is it. There's nothing else. There's no heaven, there's no hell, there's nothing. This is just it. And if you say, no, you're living an illusion, they're going to react. They're going to erupt. They're going to say, how can you say that I'm living an illusion? This is what I am seeing. There are red lights, there are green lights, there are yellow lights.
And first of all, the attempt is to build a bridge of respect. And if you want to have a conversation with such people, then you listen to their story and the finite ability. If there is an element of curiosity, then there might be bridges to build that might add some further illusions to the illusion, or shift their reality or shift their truth. And the harder you push at it, again, there is an expression, whatever you resist will persist. And so I'm not here to convince or argue with anybody to see it my way. I'm inviting them to see where they are and where they might want to go. And then if I can highlight perhaps some of the things that are holding them back from getting what they want, I'll invite them to experiment with perhaps some new beliefs or new ideas that may allow them to let go of some of their old beliefs that are controlling their truth, and perhaps have a redefinition of what truth is for them.
So why do you feel Peterson specifically put this quote in this book?
Oh, because I do believe that Jordan Peterson loves to play with the ideas of chaos theory. And when he talks a lot about us going into new realms of co-creation, is that there's a requirement to let go so that we can start anew. And he is pretty aware because he's done a lot of work into communism and certain times of our history in the last 100 years, that incredible, horrendous acts of barbaric proportions are done, man against man, man against woman, man against child, man against nature. And so he's infinitely aware that people can be so hypnotically trained to do horrendous things. And so that's what he is aware of. That's part of his illusion. Because somebody who hasn't done as much research into Eastern Europe and the fall of the USSR and certain atrocities in China wouldn't necessarily have that as part of their illusion. And so educating and talking and communicating might allow us to find out ways that we can go through the next 100 years with a new approach. Yet he's not very optimistic from what I've read, because history tends to have a component of repeating itself. And that's one of the reasons why I think he wrote the book.
I I'm going to push back a little bit. I just feel that when it's letting go of anything, sometimes I feel I may not really know exactly what it is I'm letting go. And if I'm not sure what it is I'm letting go, it just drives more reluctance and fear. And so that unwillingness to really understand what's happening internally, oftentimes it's what puts up all the barriers. And the barriers in often leads to, poor communication and how I would be reacting to certain situations. I may misunderstand certain situations. And so if I've built up this view of myself as, being a very stern, disciplined, and practical person, and then someone like yourself comes along and just throws everything out the window, does that not cause more friction as opposed to a willingness to have an open, understanding conversation?
Well, it certainly can. Yet that's where this book is providing you with some prodding and some new perspectives to give you some concepts such as illusion, and in the concepts that, are we living in illusion? Is this conversation an illusion? Somebody who is traveling through different multi dimensions is watching and just observing. That's perhaps a belief you have. Yet for someone who just sees everything right now as that's all, what I see is all there is, that will lead to a whole different interpretation. And so I think that's the richness of the book, and to review the book and to discuss the book, is that he is bringing history into it to show us how we can be influenced by history. The fear is a great motivator. It's a great way to put people against people. And he is highlighting it, and he's going to continue to highlight it in the book, because he is asking and inviting you to have an awakening to some of your beliefs, some of your values, some of your concepts, and pushes and prods and challenges you in a way that will hopefully allow you to have a greater understanding of the fullness of you and your role in society to rise up as a leader, potentially against some of the chaos and some of the order that you and I will experience in our lifetime.
I feel that as a leader, to choose what you want to see means to me, you're choosing to see that other individual in the goodness of who they are, just like you see yourself in the goodness of who you are. And when you get to that place where you can see enough individuals as being just good, innately good, it's probably going to require you to let go a lot of limiting beliefs that you may have or change the way in which you have perceived things. Would you not agree, or do you think it's more than that?
Well, I hear what you're saying, and I guess what triggered when you said it was by studying some of the things that Jordan Peterson suggests to study about the wars, about the genocide, about the systematic extinction or extinguishing of humans and treating them as less than humans. That experience isn't something that is frequently talked about over meals. Yet to understand that that could happen gives you a new reality that perhaps people aren't all nice and fuzzy and all got great emojis to be joyful. Because if you go to Cambodia and you go see the killing fields and you see that the people that the leaders decided to kill first were any educated, they killed all the doctors, all the teachers, all the anyone who had a university degree. They wiped them all out. A million, a quarter of the population. It might shift your perception that, wow, I see the good in people, because it may allow you to survive something that might occur. And that's the part that he doesn't want us to forget. He wants you to be heightened and aware that by being weak and just letting go of, oh, yeah, the governments will do what's best for us, might not be the journey that you're on. And by being able to talk about it and to be aware of it, and to use it as one of your calibration points on your journey, it will perhaps give you the experience to be the best edition of you, which hopefully you compare yourself to yesterday, not people that you see on the street tomorrow.
Mm, I just, mm, I just feel that if you're going to see the world, the good in the world, that is going to be reflected back to you. Yes, there are horrors. There are horrors that we can't explain, and we'll probably never really understand some of those horrors.
Well, that's where he would just he would the fact that you say you can't understand it almost makes it superficial, whereas he's saying, no, I'm going to invite you, actually really encourage you to go and not whitewash it, go dig deep, understand that humans behavior is something that's repeated and something that we learned from the lobster and the chimpanzees. And so he
Well,
uses these arguments that,
all, all horrors, the base of all horrors, I feel, is the driving factor is fears. So fear of losing power, fear of losing position, fear of losing